The most popular engine is naturally aspirated 1.6. The list of known disadvantages also includes cracking exhaust manifolds and a delicate ignition system. The timing chain drive is a double-edged sword. If you constantly save on oil services, the drive will give up very quickly. In addition, he does not like rough driving. The new 1.6 uses a timing belt instead of a chain. The manufacturer recommends changing it after 120,000 kilometers. Rapid received a polished version of this engine. That is, without childhood diseases like wrong pistons. So the fresh 211 is a good option, although structurally more complex. For example, there is a mechanism for adjusting the intake phases. This means that sooner or later you will have to spend money on replacing couplings. The cooling system has 2 thermostats versus 1 on the previous version. Hydraulic compensators may click after 120,000 kilometers. Floating speeds are usually cured by cleaning the injectors and throttle. Skoda would not be itself without the VAG 1.4 TSI. There are also 2 of them. Until May of the 15th year there was an option with a return of 122 power with a timing chain drive, and then a slightly more powerful belt version appeared. There shouldn't be any problems with both. It happens, of course, that the turbine actuator rods become sour. We must try to develop them. If it helps, good; if not, you'll have to order a new actuator. Turbo can be safely taken, but under 2 conditions. It is better to pour gasoline not 95, but 98. Buy only the best oil, and at the same time reduce service intervals to 7,500 kilometers. Direct injection and modern turbocharging do not forgive savings. But the 1.6 engines do not have preselectives, but have the good old automatic from Eisenwerner. For peace of mind, you can install an additional heat exchanger, but, in principle, regular oil changes are sufficient. Regular is every 60 to 80,000 kilometers. Although the service book does not know such a procedure at all. In the 16th year, they began to pour another fresh firmware into the control unit, but it turned out to be unsuccessful. So if the automatic suddenly gets stuck in second gear, don't panic. It is possible that the matter will be resolved by re-uploading the software. If you've been dreaming of an automatic for a long time, but were afraid of getting into expensive repairs, the 2-pedal Rapid is a great option to try. There are even more complaints about the mechanics. Synchronizers wear out faster than expected. And if the car is being sold by a street racer, get ready to change the differential bearing and gears. If the gears stick in somehow unclearly, as if through cotton wool, this is just a sign of a very worn-out car. The front suspension here is from the old Fabia, and the rear suspension is from the Octavia, now the generation before last. Therefore, the track at the rear is immediately 4 centimeters wider than at the front. This is such a feature. The shock absorbers could last longer, especially the rear ones. However, sometimes they earn 100,000. The mileage of wheel bearings also depends on the condition of the roads on which the car is driven. There was one funny mistake during assembly. In the first year and a half after the start of production of the model, Skoda engineers were knocked off their feet in search of what was creaking so disgustingly in the front suspension, and only in winter. It turned out to be stabilizer bushings. They simply put little lubricant on the conveyor and it was washed away with reagents. Then they began to use much more lubricants, and at the same time they changed the raw materials. The steering has an electro-hydraulic power steering. If suddenly the rack starts to tap, this usually happens for the first time in the winter, you don't need to immediately look for a new one. Braces can last a long time. So, you can even need to take Rapid. With a turbo engine and a preselective, the risk will be greater, and the cost of error will be higher. I advise you to abandon option 1.2. It's not just about power. With rare exceptions, 3-cylinder Skodas were usually taken not by pensioners, but by taxi companies. We know what huge mileage cars with checkered wheels accumulate in a year or two. We said it couldn't be clearer about gearboxes. The preselective has become stronger, but it's not ideal, but the automatic is even better than the manual. And one more piece of advice, there is no point in chasing a restyled car. The 1917 update only brought slightly different bumpers. Plus the side turn signals have been moved to the mirrors. The solution is controversial. On the front wings there is less chance of them splitting.